I've said it before and I'll say it again now. Perhaps it's a bit of a hot take. You can let me know in the comments, but the 457 millimeter guns found on the USS Ohio and the USS Georgia, for that matter, are the best American battleship guns in the entire game. Vermont also has guns this same size, but the Vermont guns don't have the same alpha strike as the Georgia and Ohio. This is the highest alpha strike in the game. These guns are quite accurate, they have great penetration, and they overmatch 30 millimeters of armor plating. So I thought, what would happen if we put Takanashi Hoshino at the helm? She's one of those new, very distasteful weeb commanders from the contemptuous BA collaboration. No offense to those of you out there who are fans, but I find it very distasteful. However, the skills on this commander are absurd. With her skill set, we're able to achieve a 23-second reload with these guns, and that is just crazy. I think the Ohio's reload to begin with is lower compared to other battleships at the tier, but that's down to the smaller number of guns compared to almost everything else. Bringing it down to 23 seconds allows for high American efficiency, you see, and that is what we're going to witness in this match. This is going to be a very efficient turnaround. We are going to have things looking grim about midway through this game, but with the power of the USS Ohio's excellent guns, we're going to be able to turn the tide, as it says in the tagline of World of Warships Legends. To begin with, we're coming out here to play the Alpha flank. As usual, people seem to be allergic to the idea that you could do anything other than just push straight in. If you take a look at the blue team, you'll notice that nobody really is trying to acquire any kind of position by means of flanking. Instead, everybody's just pushing straight in toward the enemy team. And that is likely going to spell some trouble later on. We'll see how the situation develops as we go forward. The friendly Shimakaze is desperately requesting our assistance. He is attempting to hold on to the Alpha Cap, which he has just spent all this time taking, and he's got maybe 4 ships out here trying to push into him, including the Brisbane, which has radar and is very dangerous to the Shimakaze. So we do want to oblige his request and do what we can to help him out. Specifically, we want to sink that Brisbane, but we can't, so we're going to have to shoot at the Iwami for the moment, maybe. Then again, Brisbane is spotted once more. Does look like he's angled away from us, though, on the mini-map, so I doubt we're going to get much success if we send a salvo his way. Maybe we ought to shoot at the Ibuki, but he goes down, or he goes dark, rather. Bit of momentary indecision on my part before we finally launch the salvo at Iwami, who is somewhat angled and able to mitigate the worst of the damage. But of course, the Iwami is a battleship equipped with torpedoes. I think. That's not the Heisen, right? It is the Iwami. I think it is. In any case, because he's equipped with torpedoes, we're not going to push into him. We also know that Brisbane has 13.5 kilometer torpedoes, so we're not going to push into his direction either. Plus, there's a battleship somewhere near the Bravo Cap, and there's that Ibuki as well. So there are 4 enemy ships right in this area of the map. If we push bow in toward them, we're going to get caught, we're going to get farmed, melted, and we're going to sink and go back to port. So what we need to do is clear out the herd here a little bit before we can even consider pushing in. And Brisbane, not expecting probably the 23-second reload on these guns, turns broadside and eats 3 citadels, which spells his demise and sends him back to port. Meanwhile, the Iwami has decided that he's going to come around this corner and push in to launch his torpedoes. But of course, we're prepared for that. We've got our bow pointed away, not toward the source of the threat, but away from it, even though we are 5 kilometers away. When you're pointed away and you're facing something with torpedoes, it's going to be much more difficult for them to torpedo you. You are moving away from the source of the torpedoes, so you are therefore decreasing the speed at which the torpedoes approach you. And if you're going in one direction, you can easily maneuver, turn into the other direction, and assuming that the Iwami launched his torpedoes already, which I'm sure he did, well, we're already turned out of their path. He's broadside to us, he's got almost no HP left, and we should hopefully be able to take him down as our second kill of the game. Once he goes down, that'll just leave the Brisbane and the other battleship out there somewhere near the Bravo cap. So at that point, if we want to, it'll be safe to push in, and we'll do so. We just don't want to push in against superior numbers like that early on in the game, because that is going to cause us to sink. We need to do a little bit of work in thinning out the enemy team before we can push in. And the Iwami is on fire, courtesy of one of our secondaries. This is not really a secondary build, but we do have the secondary mod selected, and so we've got a little bit of extra range, which is useful for close quarters combat like that. And the fire ends up taking out the Iwami for our third kill of the game, and we get a quick glimpse of the Ibuki, just long enough for us to send a salvo his way, and the salvo connects. The Ibuki goes down for the third kill of the game. That just leaves the Yamato over here. And moments before the Ibuki and the Iwami went down, courtesy of our secondaries and main battery, the enemy team was both ahead of us on kills and ahead of us on points. They've been ahead of us on cap circles for a long time now. But we've got a blue battleship inside of Bravo, who is pushing toward the Yamato, which is going to be useful now that the Yamato is sat still angling against me inside of the Alpha cap. We're going to be able to reset him and prevent him from taking the cap, but what we really need is his broadside to be effective. Of course, we don't have that. We have the front of his ship, but our teammate in the Bravo cap does have his broadside. Takes a big chunk of HP off that Yamato, which is just enough for us to launch this salvo and finish off the Yamato for our fourth kill of the game. That leaves just two battleships left, and both of them are on the complete other side of the map. One of them is chasing a friendly battleship back into our spawn, and the other one is nowhere to be seen. So it's going to be a little while before we get over there. We'll skip ahead, and here we find ourselves with a choice. Depending on where we go, we could shoot at this guy or potentially the other battleship. Of course, this guy appears first. Doesn't look like he's paying attention to the minimap. His guns are not even pointing at us. And so we launch the salvo, and once again we see the glory of these 18-inch American guns. The Giuseppe Verdi is gone in one salvo. That's like 30,000 HP. 194,000 damage done with the high caliber and the Kraken unleashed. I'm not going to say this game is all the way down to the commander at the helm, of course, but having this 23-second reload on the Ohio is pretty crazy, and even though I've already sort of covered this commander before on the Georgia, I just wanted to put this video up because, well, Kraken and almost nearly 200,000 damage. If you're going to go after any of these BA commanders and you can get over the fact that they are basically high school aged children, and that's kind of weird and creepy, well, they do have good skills that buff the parameters, especially of the American battleships. We'll see if we can cover a few more of them. I think the British destroyer commander is also probably pretty good, and I'll try to get a video of that up soon. Hope you enjoyed this one, though, with the Kraken. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.